video on. Alright, I was going to try to set up the background, but who cares? People try to make things too perfect. And that's what we need to talk about. People lying. I have to make this video because some of you already know this, but you're not sure, or probably we all know this, but we don't want to say it. And so I just got a random text message. People, look, here, I'm just going to say it really quickly and then we can talk about it. You're a monkey. I'm a monkey. We probably, I mean, it's known that we're different. We're very different than apes, right? But you're basically a really, really fancy monkey. A Rolls Royce is not the same as a 1934 Ford, or whenever the first Ford was made, Model T. A Rolls Royce Phantom from 2017 is not the same as a 1934 Ford. They change. Doesn't mean there isn't still 34 Fords around. They got them. Cars keep evolving and improving. The Tesla. Okay, it's not a talk about cars. Let's talk about you and why you're a monkey and why we haven't accepted that. And what does that mean? What are the implications of that? This is kind of funny because this delves into like some it could like side split into some weird like racist debate, because I realize that, and it's like a genetic thing, but that's not really the scope of this conversation. The scope of this conversation is the fact that you, whatever your skin color is, and I, whatever my skin color is, which is like pretty arbitrary because there's like skin disease and you have like mixed parents, and then what do you call that? I don't know, whatever. So it's like there's like a lot of bullshit around that I don't really want to get into, but we can just leave it there and keep moving forward. That basically we're a bunch of apes, white people included, right? That's important. So what does that mean? That means you do monkey shit. Now, a whole bunch of this is not my philosophy at all. So, right, this is evolution, but I also got a lot of this from Robert Anton Wilson, Prometheus Rising. And there's kind of this like esoteric thread through like Hinduism and all these religions, really everywhere. It's if you go deep enough that you are an evolved ape, right? And even if you read Zecharia Sitchin's 12th Planet, who's like one of the leading Egypt archaeologists of, the Louvre has him, I think he passed in 2008, but the Louvre would have him come in and translate their tablets that they brought in or whatever, and he would give the speeches on them, and he would tell the other people, this is what this means, so this is how you explain it to people. He's wrote a bunch of books about how we're like genetically engineered alien race of people or whatever, but even his books, if I remember right, but this coincides with like world prehistory and archaeology and stuff, that his books show that like, yeah, there was some kind of being here, some kind of animal, some kind of thing, and then basically the alien race interjected and started playing with the DNA or whatever. So that's a story, that's a theory, it's a map. It isn't necessarily the right one. I'm not saying that it's true, but it's a theory that you can work off of. But basically, either way, even with that theory is what I'm saying, there's still jumps of DNA in it, but you're still coming from basically an ape, right? So you're like a genetically modified ape at that point. So either way, you're still an ape. Or you could go with the creationism theory and like the world is like 6,000 years old, but I don't think anybody believes that. It's pretty obvious that if there's a creationism story, it's like allegorical, and the world being created in 7 days is probably more like the world being created in like 7 million years, 7 billion years or something, or maybe that 7 spins around the sun, like a lunar, whatever. So there's like a lot of different ways that you could measure a day if you're looking at it as an allegory, as a symbolical story, meant to impart a deeper meaning to you. Anyway, not to get too sidetracked into that, but these things are related, and it is the reason why we're not probably advancing as human beings as much as we should, as individuals and as collectively as a society. I found personally, and I know a lot of people, that we get held up on the idea that And I'm not trying to take down Christianity, because the actual original teachings of the man Yeshua ben Yosef, or Jesus the Christ, or Yeshua HaMashiach, or whatever you call him, his original teachings were radical. They were centered in love. There's some evidence that he like spent time in the mystery schools in Egypt, and in temples in Tibet as well. And apparently, from what I read, apparently, if that is true, he caused a ruckus over there as well, because his whole thing was like, look, you're trying to withhold all these teachings from the people, and you're trying to, oh, you can go out and work in the fields and mow the grass, and then you come here to the temple and pay me, and then, I'll pray for you and stuff, and then you can go back out there and give me some more bread. So, like, UGK talks about that, like pimps in the pulpit, basically. It's the same thing. So, not trying to withhold those higher teachings from people. So, and it's true that some people aren't ready for them, so you just won't even listen. You won't even be watching this video. You will turn this off. So that's cool. You're not interested, but the people that are interested, yeah, this is really like the higher level. Basically, yeah, you're a freaking monkey. But here's the secret. Here's like the little secret, I think, this is like the meld. Like, there are higher functioning faculties. You are not told about them. The CIA has been doing experiments on them and running programs where, the MK Ultra program, the remote viewing program. Look up Russell Targ, Tarq, Targ, Russell Targ. He's a physicist that got into the ESP research with Stanford Research Institute and the CIA. And Ingo Swann, who was one of their main guys, who's wrote a bunch of books, and he's got books about why this technology is suppressed and why your higher sensing faculties are not, why you're not told about them, and why they're not engaged. And it's all about control. It's all about control. So you get a lot of people that are running their own little game, like a guy that has he's reselling, like I was doing, reselling Air Jordans online for a profit. He's going to the store and buying them and then selling them back on eBay for double the money or whatever. So there's like the little games where that's not really lying. Like, I would actually send them a receipt. They know exactly what I bought it for, where I bought it from. It's pretty important to me to be honest doing business in that way, because it builds a reputation and then it allows you to do more. So, but that's business philosophy. But as far as, well, it's really life philosophy actually. But as far as this, like, dude, everyone wants to tell you you're born, like, you're not perfect yet, which means you can't accept the way you are, which means you're always going to feel guilty. And then if you don't feel guilty, then you have repressed emotions and you're pointing the finger at somebody else, telling them they're the bad guy. So there's all this weird fucking blame game going on that's like, I'm bad, so I'm not worthy. So there's like self-hate, or the self-hate stops and gets projected on the others, so they're all the bad guys. And instead of just accepting everybody as just people, and sometimes they do things good and sometimes they do things bad, and they're probably generally good, although they have self-serving motives and they're not perfect. They're not angels, as they wrote in the Federalist Papers. That's the reason for the chains to restrain members of government, because men and women, because human beings are not angels. It's like, oh, that makes sense. I guess you could argue that. You're probably not going to win, but if you're a monkey, what does that mean? Monkey with psychic powers, probably. So, yeah, that sounds crazy, right? That's absolutely fucking crazy. You're a monkey with psychic powers. What? That's actually probably the closest story you could tell yourself related to other external things. Oh, I'm a human. I'm a special, unique creature that's not like anything else that we've ever imagined before or seen. Wrong. You need water, you need food, you need exercise, you need sleep, you need to mate. You're a social creature, just like apes. You need friends and family and those things. Anyway, what does it mean? It means, yeah, you need to exercise. You might have a propensity to do things that other apes do. You should accept that as probably normal. You can work past it because you're not an actual ape. You shouldn't just say you're just an ape. You're like a really special ape. You're like a really nice one. All the bells and whistles. Like if there was a Swiss Army knife, and the one, like $5 one has like 2 blades, and it's like bloop, and then there's like one that has like 2 blades and a clipper, And then there's one that has like more, and then there's one that's like 2 blades and a clipper and a magnifying glass and a corkscrew and a screwdriver and a toothpick and a hammer, whatever. Like, I'm joking, but a fish scaler, 1,000 things on it. You're that Swiss Army knife. You're like the really fancy one with 10,000 things on it, and you probably don't know how to use all of them. Just like anybody who gets that Swiss Army knife who's seen those, they even still make those. They have like 70 things on them. You're like, you pull one out, and you're like, what does that do? And then like some guy who's like an Eagle Scout is like, oh, you use this to make your own twine out of tree bark, and you're like, okay, I didn't know I could do that. That's you. That's your whole body. That's me. That's us. That's humans. We are the guy with the Swiss Army knife, and we're not Eagle Scouts. And we're like, how do you use this thing? And we struggle with it every day, and we fight against ourselves. Like, we are our own worst enemies. We're in our way more than anything. So there's tons of techniques and methods and systems for like people to kind of, they don't necessarily tell you this right up front, but it's like to work through this and come to this realization. But essentially yoga is one of them. Every religious system is one of them if you go deep enough into it, into the esoteric side. The stuff that's for the lay people, I mean, if you're a lay person, I don't want to say lay people, but like the average person is not interested in this information. So if you are interested in this information, that's why I'm putting it out there for you, right? I fully realize that there's probably going to be like 3 people that actually care what I'm saying, but I would read Robert Anton Wilson's Prometheus Rising to get a bait, and then from him, should lead you into some other stuff, because that's really like broad, and it's actually hilarious to read. So it's really entertaining, but it's really informative. There's a bunch of exercises, and it's super broad, and he leads you to like yoga systems or meditation systems. Christopher Hyatt, who his Energized Meditation, Undoing Yourself with Energized Meditation is good. They all come from well, I shouldn't say come from, that's not accurate at all, but they had ties with Israel Regardie, who was a good friend of a lot of theirs, and he's wrote a lot of spiritual books, but he was the secretary for Aleister Crowley. So, but a lot, actually almost all these guys basically disagree with Crowley 100%, and alleging what he did or what he didn't do, I don't know, because I wasn't there. If like the little kid sex is like the weird thing that people ask questions about, they don't know, and that's not really. I haven't read deeply into his stuff, but I haven't seen anything about that. Anything he's written, mostly he writes about the Kabbalah, which is the Jewish mystical system. That's the stuff that I've read. And then he relates that back to the ancient Egyptian system, and then ties in some I think he ties in some other Greek shit in there or whatever. But it's just like, it's a lot of deep, it's just a waste of time, honestly. The stuff that I've got the most benefit out of, most of the authors are like, yeah, just don't even waste your time with it. There is good stuff in yoga, and Crowley wrote books about yoga, and there's good stuff in meditation, and they all dabbled in that. But you can go directly in those sources. You don't have to mess around with the intermediary. But a good yoga source would be BKS Iyengar, just for dealing with the physical. But he's wrote a lot of books on the spiritual side as well, so that's a great resource. And then also Paramahansa Yogananda with his Kriya Yoga systems, and you can find different books that he's written. My girlfriend got a book at the Kriya Yoga Temple that really lays out a lot that Swami Goswami Kriyananda wrote. Kriyananda was like Yogananda's disciple. So there's a good yoga thread there between BKS Iyengar and Yogananda. All the Hindu, Indian yogi systems led into Tibet and Tibetan Buddhism, so you can go to Tibetan Buddhism and get a lot more of the meditative side of that and go deeply into that. I think you need yoga and meditation. I mean, yoga is meditation, but like you need to focus on asanas, on poses, and the physical side and on the meditation side. That's what I'm saying. So you can pick and choose there where you want to go. And then other stuff, there's other Western stuff that's really good, like Rudolf Steiner, and there's even like the visionaries like Emanuel Swedenborg and stuff. But that starts to get into like more of the strictly Christian biblical view. And what you have to understand is that's an interpretation of a thing that your senses perceive. It's not 3-dimensional, but it's probably in 4th, 5th, 6th